Sui Ishida, the man who brought teens around the world the most edgiest way of cracking their knuckles and somehow looking as menacing as a puppy. And don't you dare say that you didn't even try doing it alone in your bedroom in the corner. Now, this beautiful soul brought us a new manga, and it has the same vibe as his previous works, and I really hope it actually surpasses what Tokyo Ghoul said as a bar. But with that being said, that's what we're here to talk about today, I think. So, seeing as it's a dark fantasy, then you'll probably be able to tell that it's gonna be a good dark fantasy in a couple of years when it's being animated. And it shall have peers like Chainsaw Man, and it's something I actually look forward to. Like the second part of Chainsaw Man, after the first part was finished. Anyway, so the themes this time seems to be focused on what it means to be human, or what people actually, or when people have to lose their humanity, similar to how Kaneki had to deal with not being human anymore, or later on he had to deal with identity issues because it was poorly explained in the anime. But before we go any further than this, let's look at the title itself. Choujin. What does it mean to be Choujin? From a normal Google search, you'll get the word, you'll get Choujin as in weathered or decay or decline. And I thought, there might be actually something later on in the story, considering that it's a dark fantasy, and probably because of its dual protagonist's nature, it might have something to do with someone withering or decaying in the future, or something like that. We'll talk about the dual protagonist later. So I decided to look even further to see if there might be actually more to it, and I found some other meaning, but the kanji was slightly different, with the first kanji being transcendent, super or ultra, and the second kanji being person. So rather than it being withering or decay, it seems that it will translate directly to Superman or Superwoman or Ubermensch. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically Friedrich Nietzsche's idealized man of the future, or Overman. And thinking back on the two meanings we have, doesn't mean that the story might actually focus on decaying or withering of some characters or whatever precognition they had before. Or might it mean that because of the powers that the characters get, they get to transcend into what it means to be human by getting powers and beyond that? And also, side note, this whole story just basically sounds like a My Hero Academia, but more twisted. If you remove the nuance that My Hero Academia has, it's basically people getting powers. If you think about like My Hero Academia, like back in the past, in the story in the past, then it's probably quite similar. And the power system. The power system, from what I've seen, is that it seems that people are gifted with powers, and I'm under the assumption that there are some people who are actually born with such powers, and others get it through artificial means. And when I say that, I mean, how should I say this? I mean by using specific medicine, and this medicine allows a person to turn into their most desired form, or if it's linked to a memory, then a creature they most desire. And this is shown for the first time when the main character, Tokyo, keeps on thinking about the vulture that he saw in his childhood, and considering that he was being compared to a vulture while his friend was being compared to a lion, I can see why he turned into a vulture. And I think it also has a picture of a vulture in his room. So looking at that, then you can say that if they get the powers of a vulture or the powers of a snake or whatever it means that they transform into, it means that they also get the powers and the abilities to talk to them and also transform partially into those forms. This is actually shown when Tokyo, again, talks to a bunch of birds when he was having trouble with his friends. But then again, there are others who actually get powers differently and actually exhibit different powers. Like the first guy in the first chapter, he actually has I was gonna say fire-based powers, but it's not really fire-based powers. It seems like it's smoke-based powers. And there are people that actually get powers just by absorbing them or copying them, and this is shown by the first kid in the first chapter, considering that he didn't use any form of injections or needles in order to get his powers. He got them through different means, so I'm kind of curious on how they're going to talk about that in the future. And if we go any further, let's talk about the main characters. So far I only look at two characters, Tokyo and Azuma. And considering how the relationship actually reminds me of Kaneki and Hide, with Kaneki and Tokyo being more of the introverted and shy side, and Azuma and Hide being more outgoing and extroverted. Also, the way the relationship works is kind of odd but totally different from Kaneki and Hide from what we've seen is that Tokyo calls upon Azuma when he seems to spot trouble, because he doesn't really take action. It's more of the fact that he actually tells Azuma that he's seeing something and Azuma acts upon it, and this is actually shown in the first chapter of the manga. And if you read further, you'll notice that there might actually be problems dwelling up in the future, probably because his friend turned into a Choujin, or because the fact that he couldn't even turn into one even after using the injection and getting his ass saved. But besides that, there are other things that we can talk about, like the roly-poly theory. I actually saw this from another YouTube channel. I might link them in the comment section and talk about them. From what I've seen, the roly-poly theory basically states that this is shown in the first chapter where Azuma and Tokyo actually talk about roly-polies, and Azuma actually asks Tokyo if roly-polies actually like living in damp places when they could be moving in dry places, ascertaining that in nature, if they actually like living in damp places rather than keep on moving in dry places. And this is actually asking conjunction of him asking if, like, roly-polies living in damp places, are Choujins just bad in nature in general, or is there something to it? Maybe like there might be a good Choujin out. I'm not really sure how does this allude to the nature of Choujins, but it might actually be further discussed as the story goes on. Ascertaining, because we're gonna look at Tokyo, who seems like he's gonna be a good Choujin rather than the stereotypical Choujin that's actually bad, and that's actually something quite interesting to it. But then again, it's dark fantasy and it's Sui Ishida, and I'm pretty sure he might do an excellent job at it. And considering that it's dark fantasy, it isn't something that you actually always see, although there are things that you see occasionally. It's not something that made a mark like Tokyo Ghoul in the mid to late 2010s. Regardless of how you felt about how they handled the anime adaptation, you can't really deny that the impact it made was quite noticeable, especially chapter 124 of the Ari manga, because damn, people on Twitter were pissed about that. But then again, let us continue, since it's in the same genre as Chainsaw Man, which I'm still waiting for the second part of the manga, but I hope it actually grows beyond what its predecessor set as a bar, and I hope it actually becomes better. I really suggest you go read this manga because it's quite interesting and you might actually like it. And hit that like button, subscribe if you're brand new or you like the content, and thank you for watching.